Hey guys, what's going on? Mike the Caveman Q here again, Failure from Long Island, MikeTheCaveman.com. And today's question is, should you be supplementing with melatonin?
I'm the caveman.
And the answer is, probably not. The reason being, melatonin is a hormone, a very powerful one at that. And its primary role isn't even in sleep induction. It's part of maintaining your circadian rhythm, the sleep and wake cycle, by way of light. It tells you what time it is. Now, I've discussed on numerous occasions the issues with taking isolated hormones. We've talked about taking insulin in blood sugar dysregulation. We've talked about reproductive hormones, things like testosterone and estrogen. We've talked about thyroid hormone and those for hypothyroid. The problem is that hormones, our endocrinology, is very tightly regulated by way of negative feedback loops. What that means is you take one thing and it turns down something else. So, in the case of melatonin, how does it work? Well, in the morning, we see the light. Our light hits our eyes, and melatonin gets suppressed. Now, in the process, the adrenals kicked on, and our stress hormones are things like cortisol, epinephrine and norepinephrine, or adrenaline and noradrenaline. Those get turned on, and those tell us to wake up, and we get moving. Then at night, the light goes away. And what happens? Melatonin gets turned on, those stress hormones get turned off, and now we start to fall asleep. Those don't actually knock us out. They're not a sedative. But they're our internal clock telling us, okay, it's nighttime, go to bed. So rather than supplementing directly with the melatonin, look at what the conditions are at night. Are you frequently under a bright light? Is there light shining into your eyes, particularly of the blue variety? If you've noticed, most smartphones these days have a feature that turns down the blue light, and then you get this yellow screen. Why? Because blue light suppresses melatonin production. As a species, we evolved and adapted to orangey light, fire. We didn't have access to blue light at night. And now all of our electronics emit that color, and it's not a natural color in terms of our circadian rhythm. Our bodies see that blue light from those electronics, from that TV, that computer screen, that smartphone, that tablet, and they see it, and what they think is daytime, don't need melatonin, stay awake. Do this often enough and your circadian rhythm gets thrown off. So what can we do? Well, first of all, you want to make sure that your nighttime habits are good. So make sure you're getting those lights off relatively early, hour or so before bed. Make sure you're not on that computer, that phone, that tablet, you're not watching the TV. I know it's hard, but if you're having issues with sleep, that's what you need to do. You need to turn off your brain, and you need to turn off the stimulation from those lights. You're going to want to completely darken your room, ideally removing electronics, because then we're getting into some of the EMF, that's a whole nother story. But for now, try to remove as many electronics that aren't already in the room, like say a TV. From there, if none of that's an option, consider using blue blocker glasses. They essentially look like welding glasses, the yellow glasses, and you wear those and they block out the blue light. And they've been shown to reduce some of the issues. In terms of supplemental support, you may want to consider things like ashwagandha, which is an adaptogenic herb that helps to regulate your HPA axis. Now, we've talked about that a bunch before, but the A, that last one, your adrenals, that's the ones we talked about before, the stress hormones that basically get turned on in the morning to turn off melatonin. Well, if you help to regulate that, you'll also be regulating your melatonin as a side benefit. Other ones, things like CBD, that has roles in regulating those adrenals again, but it also regulates the serotonergic pathway. Now, serotonin is one of the immediate precursors to melatonin. From there, you may want to consider some 5-HTP, but that wouldn't be your front line of defense. Now, once again, that 5-HTP is a precursor to melatonin. Basic pathway, the way it goes, starts out with tryptophan, and tryptophan is that one we've talked about before. People think about on Thanksgiving making the food coma happen, but tryptophan goes to 5-HTP, which is 5-hydroxytryptophan. That 5-HTP then goes to serotonin. Serotonin goes to N-acetylserotonin, which in turn goes to melatonin. So that pathway, you can start with the steps before that. In addition to dealing with that light, you can consider regulating the adrenals and regulating the serotonin pathway to get those going, and potentially even supplementing in a little bit of 5-HTP, or even eating foods that are rich in tryptophan and getting in a little bit of carbohydrate. Because we've talked about before in terms of why do you get tired after eating, that's why. the carbohydrate actually helps get the tryptophan across the blood-brain barrier. It's not just tryptophan by itself. That's present in pretty much most foods. But by adding a high tryptophan food and a little bit of carbohydrate before bed, you'll be ready to rock. So maybe a couple tablespoons of almond butter with a slice of banana. Though one caveat to all this is the potential for its use in jet lag. The reason being, well, if you went and traveled a long distance, you come back, your biological clock is set to someplace else. So it could help to reset your circadian rhythm to your normal location. So to help combat jet lag, acute short-term use of melatonin may be beneficial. So your biggest takeaways are that no, you probably shouldn't be supplementing with melatonin. It's generally not a great idea to start playing around with your hormones. Now, the best bet is to actually deal with your sleep environment, make sure that it's darked out and you're blocking out blue light during the time before bed to help with the natural production of melatonin. From there, consider things that can help to regulate your serotonin and your adrenals. And finally, consider getting in a little bit more of the precursors, the tryptophans and the 5-HTP. But if you want some more information on ways to improve sleep, or on those food comas and why you're tired after eating, take a look at these videos over here. Either way, hopefully helped you out. You know what to do. Like and subscribe down below. Share it with your friends. Head over to Instagram and Twitter and follow me at Mike the Caveman. Over on Facebook at Paleo Problem Long Island. And of course, over at MikeTheCaveman.com. That being said, have a wonderful rest of your day. Go get some sleep. And I'll see you tomorrow. Let's start with a textbook definition of art. It is the expression of